In order to create a preset, you need to make use of the preset slots. I'm referring to this drawing here. We see that by default we have 8 preset slots. You can always change this to some other number by typing a different one. You can also alter the preset numbers by using the subtract and adding preset buttons. Let's leave it now at 4. To create a new preset, just hover over the desired slot and press Shift and left click. When you do that, the slot will lighten up to indicate that data lives there. If you hover over the slot, you will see some information. This refers to the values that were found on creation of the preset and are for the time and the morphing curve. So this allows you to create different presets with their unique time and curve values, which is quite flexible and quite fun to play with. So in this case, we have a preset that takes 2 seconds and uses a linear curve to arrive to this current state. Let's create a different state, something like this perhaps. And now I want it to be faster, so I'm going to use it or transition it in 0.5 seconds. And I want a different curve, perhaps the quadratic curve. So I'm going to save it now in slot number 2. When I do that, I can see that the duration now is different as well as the curve, but the first one has remained intact. I am currently now in preset number 2. Let's move to number 1. To do so, all I need to do is to left click on the box. Now let's move to number 2. We see that it moved with its unique values. To delete a preset, you simply need to Shift right click on it. There is one important thing to know about how the element container manages, reorders, and relabels things when you alter them in the preset slots. So one example of that is, for example, when you delete a preset. Let me demonstrate what happens if I have a slot number 2 and I want to delete not the last preset in the queue, which is number 2, but something in the beginning, so something before 2. If I do that, the element container is going to push everything that has information to the left, and everything that has no information will be pushed to the right. So let's delete now number 1. As you can tell now, 2 has been moved to the left, so we start with the label 2, and 1 is now here, because it's empty, so it has been pushed to the right. This is because order is important, and in a system such as TDMorph, which has many other internal tools, and that is compatible with many things at the same time, it is important that the order is preserved. It is a little bit difficult to explain this at this point, because it's an advanced topic, but it will be more clear later on when you play with the other tools available in TDMorph and when I explain things in further tutorials. Let's say that you want to have the labels according to the visual order. That is of course possible. So you can always right click on this empty space and click on rename presets in order. And now that label will be replaced to the corresponding spot from left to right. The same thing happens when you write to non-consecutive boxes. So what do I mean by that? The most natural thing is that if I want a new preset, let's say this, I will write it in preset 2 because it's the next available slot. But nothing really prevents you from writing it in slot number 3 or slot number 4. So you are perfectly capable of doing that. However, if you do so, the behavior is that the elements container is going to push everything that has data to the left and that has no data to the right. So what happens is, now I have 1, 3, 2, and 4. And that is again because of preserving the order of the states, which is a necessary thing in TDMorph. To rename these things, you can do the same we did before. Rename presets in order, and they will assume the visual order. So now it's 1, 2, 3, and 4 again. So that is one of the things you need to be aware of if you're writing or deleting in a non-consecutive order. And yeah, it's one of those things you just need to get used to. Perfect. Now speaking of ordering things, you can of course as well reorder the cells in any way you want. Let's say I have 2 more presets. I will store this in number 3 and number 4. And I am now in state number 4. So let me move now to state number 1. And what if I want number 4 to be at the beginning, so that I don't have to travel here, or I just want to visually have number 4 first, or for whatever reason? What you can do is press Alt and just move with your drag and drop and your mouse to the cell that you want to replace it with. So 4 will be replaced in 1, and 1 will go to the place of 4. If I now release, that happens. So how did I do it again? Alt, press Alt, and drag and drop to the desired spot. So this allows you to composite the order once you have played with your presets. So let's say I want, instead of 4, 3, then I decide that 4 should be second and 1 should be last. What I can do now is keep it like this if I want to, but I can just rename the presets in order again, and they will have the right values on each state. One other thing that I can do is that I can go into this button here, which is to sequence the presets, because most likely you will want to sequence your presets and launch them one after the other. One way to do it will be manually, so you just launch this, then launch this, but it is very cumbersome to calculate the ending of this spot. So this does that for you automatically. Let's press sequence and see what happens. 1, 2, 3, and 4. As you can tell, it goes in order. One extra behavior that you can achieve is that you can loop this sequence. In order to loop it, you go, like we did when we were exporting presets, into the settings. And if you go to, presets, you see here on sequence, it says once, but you can select this to be in a loop as well. If you select it to be in a loop, when you press the sequence, this will just repeat continuously, allowing you to play with a loop. Alright. If you want to stop this loop, you may have noticed that every time you trigger one of the presets, there's a little thing that appears here. One of them is the stop button, and one is the play and pause buttons. So this refers to the interpolation. If I got tired of this loop, I can always just press stop, and the loop will stop. And this is only accessible whenever something has been triggered. So see what happens if I retrigger another preset. Once it's completed, they disappear. This gives you finer control over the sequencing. Let's see what happens now if I press on that pause button. So let's relaunch the sequence. And if I press the pause button, the loop just pauses and it will keep going from where it left if you re-enabled it. So this gives you great flexibility to how performances work, or if you're exploring things, you can just play around and stop things midway through, change a couple of things, presets and so on, and retake from where you left. Okay. Finally, I want to talk about how you can lock also a preset itself. Before we saw that we could lock individual items like this one. So if I trigger this, nothing changes on that slider for that element. You can also do the same for presets. If you press Shift and middle click on any of the presets, it will turn red. That means that this preset is now non-editable. So it doesn't matter what thing you press here. I'm now pressing these buttons, trying to change the box, trying to move the sliders. Nothing changes anymore. You are not able to alter any of the states that were stored in this preset. And this is a security feature in case you are sure you will never change this preset and you don't want to do it by accident. All the other ones, no, remain totally editable, so you can always edit them. But as soon as you go to one of the presets that are red, things are disabled. Okay, that is all there is to know about the presets.